All right, we are live with the Paced Happiest Hour. And yes, there with me is Luther Dickinson. Hey, Luther.
Hey, hey, thanks for inviting me.
Oh, so great to have you here. Um, so, Luther Dickinson, North Mississippi All Stars, you played with so many different folks, Black Crows for years. But one thing I learned about you today is that at the age of 14, you played on the Replacements. Pleased to meet me. How did I know Jim Dickinson's your dad, but what was that like as a kid playing on what would become just an amazing record?
It was a hugely influential time because I was into the Replacements, and Dad was working with the Replacements, and he was telling me all the tips of Paul Westerberg's guitar playing. Like he was playing an open G tuning, but in the key of F, like using Ramon style bar chords in open tuning, which even Keith Richards doesn't do. Not to get too technical, but Tommy was young. They were super sweet to me. Have always have been, and I loved the music. It was like the pinnacle of being a kid and your dad's job being super cool, you know. And the reason I got to play on it was because the song "Shootin' Dirty Pool," Dad had a concept to make it a like an animated video. Maybe not animated, but he had a scripted idea for this song "Shootin' Dirty Pool." And it was like a bar room brawl, and they asked me to play like teenage metal guitar noises to help illustrate this barroom brawl. So there's like glass breaking and laughter, and I was just making noise on the guitar, but they were so sweet to let me do it. You know, Tommy, grew up, he was 13, 14 when he started, and we've been dear friends ever since. So they were sympathetic to the young punk. The great claim to fame, probably my greatest claim to fame of anything, is that, I was 13 and 14, and I went in wearing what I thought was my cool shirt, and little did I know it reeked of middle school 7th grade cologne. And
Wait, was it Polo? Polo for men?
oh man, it might have been. I might still be on the Old Spice at that
Old
point.
Spice.
I don't think I've upgraded yet. Polo, that was big.
That was
But
big back then.
part of what happened was Dad gave me, like, he had a grand tour set up. Like he had Westerberg. Okay, just real quick, short story long. But Westerberg, he never used lyric sheets the whole time they made that record. He was improvising lyrics every time he stepped up to the mic. There were definite lyrical landmarks that he would hit every time, but every performance was different. And it was this early digital recording that Dad loved the technology. And he was keeping every take and editing all these takes together way before, when it was brand new, the technology. Before, they weren't even influenced by hip hop. But they were sampling guitars and drums as if they were hip hop producers. Anyway, so Paul went and sang "Shootin' Dirty Pool," and he made up a new bridge. And it was, "You're the coolest guy that I ever have smelt. Not a notch on nobody's belt." And I laughed at it when he sang it because I was familiar with the tune and I knew it was a new lyric, but it didn't even dawn on him until later when Dad told me. He was like, "Dude, he was singing. He was making fun of you, man, because you sang like a high school kid on a date."
Ah, that's amazing. And that's what's on tape.
They're working on a new reissue box set with Warner Brothers. It's going to be really exciting. A lot of outtakes and demos, and because I was really practicing guitar a lot at that. I always knew I wanted to play guitar, but 13, that's when you really start practicing and studying those tapes. I learned a lot about songwriting and structure and different chords, and learning from the Replacements, no doubt about it.
Well, you've done so much since then, and you have such a big catalog to pull from. But what are you going to play first for us today?
Man, I just love these couple of new songs from the All Stars last record, "Up and Rolling," and they're both songs about, they're like good time, summertime festival songs, about growing up in Mississippi, and this one's about "Up and Rolling." It's about growing up in Mississippi, and then the second verse I'll sing is about R.L. Burnside's. The best parties in the hills growing up were Big Mama Burnside birthday parties, R.L.'s wife. And 2 years in a row, R.L. called me up and invited us personally to play his wife's birthday party. And we would set up in the carport, like out in the gravel, and we're literally like the power cord, the extension cords coming out the windows, you know. And he and R.L. Burnside and his wife would sit in these lawn chairs, and he would sit and request that we play his songs, and then just laugh at us the whole time. That's what the second verse is about, and the first verse is self-explanatory.
All right.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, well, let's get it on. Up and rolling. Grew up in Mississippi, hippie tripping, LSD, smoking stems of seeds and drinking mushroom tea. We're drinking mushroom tea. We're drinking mushroom tea. Grew up in Mississippi, hippie tripping, LSD. Yeah, we were up and rolling. Yeah, we were up and rolling. Mending things with our friends. Yeah, we were up and rolling. Smoking them things. Extension cords out the window of RL's single wide, singing through a PV, sounding good outside. We're sounding good outside. We're feeling good outside. Extension cords out the window of RL's single wide. Yeah, we were up and rolling. Yeah, we were up and rolling. Smoking them things with our friends. Yeah, we were up and rolling. Grew up in Mississippi, hippie tripping, LSD.
Oh man, what would you give right now to be at a party like Big Mama Burnside's birthday party?
Oh man, oh, those were the best parties, man. And it was so funny because by that point in time, when we first started the band, we wanted to play hill country blues, this music that we grew up with at our community. All the musicians in our community played different versions of these songs, and I was so fascinated with it. that we started this band to do that. And we were already playing our own experimental rock and roll. We were playing roots music that our dad taught us with our dad. So there's like at least 2 bands we had. But then one night I was listening to Mississippi Fred McDowell, and as I said, we've been riding mushrooms and picking motorcycles all day. And it I had this idea listening to this tape of Mississippi Fred McDowell that I just had to play like Fred McDowell and R.L. Burnside and this hill country blues I was so fascinated with, Arthur Turner. And that idea changed our life, man, because that music was taking us all over the world. And roots music is like a craft, like woodworking or cooking or sewing or whatever. It's, it's passed down person to person. You can learn from afar, and everybody studies records and tapes or YouTube, but like our father, or playing with Arthur Turner, or playing with Phil Lesh, like he invited me into his world 10 years ago and taught me his music by hand. And that's a priceless, life-changing, gift when someone teaches you something like that.
That's incredible. Well, you guys have kept that tradition going. Since starting out as a 14-year-old, playing on a Replacements album, you've gotten to do so much in your career. But last year you had 2 different albums coming out. You had 2 different albums come out. You had the North Mississippi All-Stars, but you also had one with the Sisters of the Strawberry Moon. Can you tell us about that and that project?
That's a potluck session. It's the second time I've done it. The first one was called The Wandering with Valerie June and Amy LaVere and Sharday Thomas, who is Arthur Turner's granddaughter. And she's my Mississippi queen. She plays drums and the fife. And she plays with us all the time. And it's the second time. I met the Birds of Chicago, this wonderful band, and it's a husband and wife team. And I'd been hanging out with Amy Helm, and as soon as I met Birds of Chicago, I was like, oh wow, we have enough people to make this completes a new circle that we could have a potluck music party. So I invited Amy and Sharday and Amy LaVere, who plays the upright bass and sings. Uh-huh. Amy LaVere and Sharday is my Mississippi roots music dream team rhythm section. And it was a beautiful story because Amy Helm and the Birds of Chicago had never met, and they became fast friends. But my favorite song on the record is Sing to Me, and we captured a real beautiful moment down at our studio in Mississippi, because it was just Amy, Sharday, and I, drums and acoustic guitar and voice, and we had worked the song up, and we got one take, and maybe like a run through, and then the first take, and then the Birds of Chicago walk in, and I was like, "Oh, hey, Amy, this is JT and Allie. JT and Allie, this is Amy Helm. Hey, we're about to get this take, So Allie sits down at Amy's feet, and it's just like we all take a breath, and we get the take that's on the record, and it's really my favorite song on the record. And it was the beginning of a beautiful friendship. They've made music together on their own ever since, and we've toured the record. Touring the record, we didn't have a bass player, and it was really bugging Amy Helm on the drums. It was hard for her not to have a bass, and but we were playing with Phil, opening up for Phil at the Capitol Theater on not his birthday, but it was a gig. And Amy was like, Graham will be there. Graham can play bass. And so Amy single-handedly recruited Graham Lesh into the band that night. He not only played one song, but the whole set, and then jumped in our van the next morning and has been completed the tour and has been a member of the band ever since. We started a new band called the Capitol Sunrays.
That's fantastic. Well, it seems like you are constantly coming up with new combinations of people to play with. They're playing on everybody's album. What has quarantine been like, not being able to just pick up your instrument and go somewhere in Nashville and jump in a studio with, 6 new people that you just thought of, would be great together.
Yeah. It's just so sad not to I'm sad not to do all the festivals because I love the festival season, and so many of the songs on our new record that we've been playing are geared towards playing outside. They're literally about playing music outdoors, but we will one day. We shall. But but growing up the son of a record producer, different than my brother Cody, who's totally a one-man record making machine. But I've always enjoyed the collaboration of working with engineers. So I always bring someone else in to run the equipment while I get to play and sing and create. But I've had to learn to do it for myself in the last 2 months, and it's been so liberating and so creative. And I've been writing and learning to. I've been working with friends and Cody and sending files back and forth. And in some ways, you can be more creative like that than if you're in a room together, because everyone can bring their best to the table as opposed to whatever may happen with the chemistry of the moment and the people. So I don't know, music, and we've been listening. It's been fun to listen to music. I've listened to music. I went into a large Prince phase, D'Angelo phase, and then I've been listening to Tame Impala, and just to listen to music as a fan. Now I'm listening to soundtracks, film scores, and that's been a new experience too. It's unlike anything I've experienced in my adult life, being home this much.
Well, we're so glad that you're here with us today to share a little of that music. And before you get going on your second song, can you lift up your guitar so we can see that beautiful body right there? Look at that.
It's an old National. I had the cone and the resonator collapsed, and I tried to rebuild it multiple times, but it's a lifespan. The guitar is from the 20s. But
I could see myself briefly in the reflection of that. There I am. That's amazing.
They say you're never the same after you look through yourself in a mirror on the internet. You just reach through a transcendental doorway.
Well, if it's that mirror, then I think it can only be a positive experience. Whatever's going to go on.
Definitely. I sit and do it by myself all the time. But I do want to say that I always say it every time. Everyone out there, my mom told me with my kids, be kind and stay cool, and that's a great way. I hope that music brings everyone out there the same solace it does us, be it the after dinner dance party or listening to a friend that listening to a song that your friends love, and being together at least in that way. And music's a powerful tool of togetherness even when we're apart.
Well, this is the positive energy that I needed today, and I'm sure that it's what the people listening on the internet right now needed as well. So thank you so much for this. What are you going to play as your second song today?
This song is called Drunk Outdoors. And it's another song about growing up in Mississippi, and especially on Sundays. Sunday was like designated day to just ride around and just meander from party to party. We had a long wasted youth extended apprenticeship, that I would give nothing for. And that's what this song's about. My friend Gary Burnside, Arl's son, he would knock on our door early Sunday morning. My wife and I'd be in bed, and he'd be like, "Come on, man, let me holler at you. Step outside. We got to go. It's time to go ride and party." I'm like, "Man, it's Sunday morning," but hey. That's what this song's about. Drunk outdoors. That sums up the whole experience. Even if you're not drinking, you still have a good time. How's our time? How much time do I have?
We are good.
All right.
Yeah, just play what you need to play. We're not in a hurry.
Improvising on the internet, like how indulgent really is it? You know what I mean? It's like Let me holler at you, come on, step outside. You got $10, don't you? We gonna ride. Let me holler at you, step outside. Bumping the junk out the trunk. Let's go get drunk outdoors. The feet on dirty dance floors. Let's go get drunk outdoors. We're cooking with gas on the front burner. Hot wing gas station down on the corner. We're cooking with gas on the front burner. Open the junk out the trunk. Let's go get drunk outdoors. The feet on dirty dance floors. Let's go get drunk outdoors. If you got money, you can get a little bit. If you got money, get that hit up. If you got money, you can get a little bit. Come on, get that hit up. Come on, get that hit up. Come on, get that hit up. Get that hit up. If you got money, you can get a little bit. Come on, get that hit up. If you got money. 10 toes down, soldiers on the grind. Down at the club on the county line. 10 toes down, soldiers on the grind. Bumping the junk out the trunk. Let's go get drunk outdoors. The feet on dirty dance floors. Let's go get drunk outdoors.
Oh, thank you for proving that the blues can be full of joy. This has been so much fun.
Thanks, man.
So the last question I have for you before we bring on Sierra Hull and do our toast is, what is the piece of art that is getting you through all of this? What are you, or not getting you through all of it, but what are you finding yourself drawn to, whether that's a TV show, a book, somebody else's album, whatever, that you're has your attention right now as you're at home?
It's been such a joy to listen to music and just like give it my all and get into it and listen to it like all day, every day, and all night, and let it just really be in my consciousness. Because when you're working and playing and touring or writing or recording, sometimes you can't do that. It's too much. But I went through a big Prince phase that had started even before the tour got canceled, and that led into a D'Angelo phase. But then it was funny. I selected the Song Exploder Tame Impala episode, and like right before it, I got goosebumps. I was like, I don't know, should I do this? What is this going to lead to? I really felt like it was one of those moments. You know, it's like this. I've been because I loved the first Tame Impala record, but then fell off for 8 years. And wow, man, Kevin's so beautiful. The new record is so gorgeous. I love it so much. It's still psychedelic. It's just, he uses synths. And, you know, I think that being self-reliant and more electronic and not when you're like old school, like we're a rock and roll band and we're in a van and we play tube amps and real drums. I don't, we'll see how much of that transcends into the future. But I think being self-reliant and using whatever tools are at hand to make your music is really inspiring, and I've really enjoyed the Tame Impala.
That's fantastic. Well, cool. Well, let's bring Sierra back in. Hey, Sierra.
Hey, sounded so great.
Oh, thank you. Welcome.
Hey, thanks a lot.
So I love that we have two musicians here that both started very, very young and found themselves in the spotlight very young, both living in and around Nashville. So welcome, Sierra.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
So, so this is the part of the show where we raise a glass to those that we feel like need to, a glass raised to them or deserve a glass raised to them. And so I'll start us off. I know a lot of people going back to work. One of my daughters is going back to work. She had her first shift yesterday, and it's a little scary. It's a little just nerve-wracking to be back out there in the world. And so those people who are just kind of thrown back into it, may you encounter nice people who are considerate and wear masks in front of you and all of those things. So to all the workers getting back to work, I will raise a glass. Cheers.
Cheers.
So is that the Freud there?
Yeah, well, jelly
Luther?
jar of some nice scotch.
So Luther, who else should we be toasting here today?
Today I'll toast to everyone who, for whatever reason, be it the escapism of a concert or the fellowship of church or meetings, everyone who really needs that social human experience of togetherness to keep it, it's part of their life. And without that, I just want to send you just love and positivity. And I hope you find solace in music or whatever it takes.
Cheers to that. Amen.
Cheers.
So Sierra, what are you drinking with the blueberries in it there?
This is a cherry bubbly sparkling water with some mint from our garden that we kind of got going in the backyard, and some blackberries in there.
Fantastic. So I've been living off of my own SodaStream mixtures where I'll make a syrup with watermelon and strawberries and lime, sometimes grab mint from the garden. So I feel you. It's so good.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
All right. Who else should be toasting today, Sierra?
Gosh, I think what you guys have both said is really beautiful, and especially, thinking about people kind of getting back out there in the world. It's like right now, I think, in some ways, I'm bummed I can't go out and do the thing I do right now. But there's also, I don't know, in a weird way, like a privileged feeling to that too. Like you're talking about the scariness of someone like your daughter going back out to work, and just all the people that are sort of trying to navigate what that feels like when maybe you're not kind of comfortable getting back out there. But for all the folks that have been working in these crazy times, the frontline workers, and certainly all the grocery store workers that have sort of been keeping food on our table, whether it's the truck drivers and speaking to just again what Luther said about all the people that are sort of the very extroverted people, that this time of sort of social distancing is a really lonely feeling for a lot of people, I think, and I imagine, gosh, also all the parents that are sort of got a house full of children. I don't know what that feels like yet, but I have friends that are telling me that it's, really hard to get things done and it's crazy. So I feel for all those hardworking parents out there who are still just trying to keep the world going round. So cheers to all of them.
Yes, cheers to them. All right. Well, Luther, before we let you go, I also want to thank folks who've been given online. We've got a little button on our YouTube channel here that I see people clicking and donating to the Sweet Relief Musicians Fund, which goes to musicians and music industry professionals who are in need because of health issues or whatever it is, whatever emergency. They just do great work, and we appreciate the generosity of the viewers there. So cheers to y'all.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So Luther, I would love to do this again in person in our Atlanta studio when, we can all get back out there and see each other face to face. So thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
All right. Stay safe out there.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Oh, that was a great exit.
That's really good.
So Sierra, how are you doing today?
Doing good, yeah, doing very well. Just kind of hanging at my house here in Nashville, as I've done every day for the past 70-something days. And trying to kind of get back in the workflow. I took a few days of sort of just not being as busy, which was kind of nice, just being outside a little more and trying to do a few things around the house. So today feels like I'm kind of diving back in. So,
well, you would normally be out on tour right now in support of your brand new record, 25 Trips. And congrats on the record. Sorry that, plans didn't kind of work out as far as being out on the road in support of it, but we're so glad that you're here. I would love for you to just tell us a little bit about making this record. It's stylistically pretty diverse. What was influencing you? What did you want to kind of accomplish with this record?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me on to kind of hang out and play a little bit and talk about the record. I know, it would be so great to be out on tour right now, but at the same time, everybody's kind of in the same boat. So we'll get back out there when we can, hopefully, and celebrate it on the back end. But yeah, it was great to get to do this record and be able to sort of put a lot of the different things that I love musically into it. I've always loved a lot of different styles and things. So this was sort of taking a mixture of, like from my singer-songwriter self, taking some of the songs that focus a little bit more on the instrumental, like the title track 25 Trips is sort of built off of this sort of wild mandolin, riff basically, and not maybe your typical song form, but then there's some things on there that are certainly stripped down, that are totally built around the song. There's a couple songs that are just mostly guitar and voice, and very much like what I would have sounded like on a demo right after I wrote it. But yeah, there's songs like Escape, where I played electric mandolin and layered a bunch of my own harmonies, and it's the first time using drums and piano and electric guitar and some other just instrumentally different sounds that I've always loved on other people's records but hadn't really got around to using on my own yet. So
yeah. I fell in love with electric mandolin on Mark Hurd's record, and I know you played on his tribute album. I love the tone that he got on some of those songs, and it's cool to hear you do that. And I just love the mandolin. I hack mandolinist myself, but terrible. But I love hearing other people play it, and I loved hearing you during sound check. So I'm looking forward to this. What are you going to play first?
Well, I thought I would play the opening track off of the new album. This is the first song on there. It's called Beautifully Out of Place.
Fantastic.
You believe in me, but I can't see why you see. How long is it gonna take me to trust myself? I've been stuck here so long, gotta find a way to move on. I gotta get on out of here. I gotta let go of this fear. Oh, I swore I'd never let it go this far. Now another year, I'm stuck here in the dark. Maybe I'm beautifully out of place, like the moon hides out in the sunlit day. More afraid. Maybe I'm beautifully out of place, and it won't be long till I find my way. At least that's what you say. You believe in me, but I can't see what you see. How long is it gonna take me to trust myself?
Woo!
Thank you.
Oh, that's so fantastic.
Oh, thanks so much.
I could listen to that all day long. Just
Oh,
watch
man.
you playing that mandolin. That's fantastic.
Oh, I really appreciate that.
So, you're in Nashville, correct?
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah. So I know Nashville has been hit doubly hard between weather and everything. We've had so many different Nashville artists on the show. How are you doing? Fine through all the tornado and everything, and how are you holding up being at home right now?
So, my husband and I have been extra fortunate throughout kind of all the crazy stuff that's happened. I really feel for so many here in the Nashville community because it really does feel like it's been one thing after another. When the tornado hit back in March, it came within like a mile of our house, and it really got, you know, some pretty much messed up badly some of the areas close by, but thankfully, you know, we were totally fine during all of that. And then we have my husband owned a home before we got married, and so we still have that house that's, I don't know, 20 minutes from here, near the airport. And thankfully it was like the same deal within a mile, and nothing happened there. So we kind of felt like double fortunate to, you know, that the storms had happened so closely, because just all these different pockets of Nashville got pretty torn up. So we were extra lucky during that. And then of course throughout all the stuff with, you know, the pandemic, we've been healthy. Our families are still healthy, thankfully. So you know, can't really complain there with all of just the crazy stuff that's been happening. We had another storm blow through maybe 3 weeks ago, and we had these two trees, one in our front yard and one in our backyard, because we live in a community, so really just the two trees that were close to us. The storm and the heavy winds broke both trees, completely knocked them down. One came in with like this much of my car, but didn't touch our house or anything. So we lost both of our trees, but again, very fortunate. You know, it could have been so much worse. Well, a big storm rolled through yesterday, and I was like, man, it knocked our power out for a few hours, and I just thought, man, God bless the folks that have to go out and try to get power back on, because it's just been one thing after another for people in this community, just, you know, losing power and, you know, just trees down. So the basically all the electrical workers and, you know, the folks going around cleaning up have just been superheroes, you know, because it's been a crazy time here. So
it has. It just seems like it keeps coming to Nashville.
Yeah.
So,
but we've been lucky. We've been very lucky, very blessed. So no complaints here.
well, I'm so glad to hear it. You, for being as young as you are, have had an incredible career, Grammy nomination, played at the White House. Has there been just an experience as a musician that you just think back and there's probably several, but is there one that stands out as I can't believe that just happened? Is this real life?
There's been a few things like that for me. I mean, even dating back to when I was a kid, I remember there'd be things happening that I sometimes was like, I remember the first time I got called by my hero Alison Krauss to come play the Grand Ole Opry. I was just a little kid, and I remember thinking, I can't believe this. Like, I really can't believe that she called our house and just asked if I wanted to play the Grand Ole Opry with her, because that was my dream. I used to draw photos of myself. There's some, like, when I was like 9 years old, of me literally drawing pictures of myself on stage with, Allison when I was a little kid, and yeah,
That's
just
incredible.
I got to go play the White House with her for the Obamas when they were there, and it was a thing called PBS Country Music at the White House. So there was, it was a bunch of different people performing on the show that night, and I was lucky enough to get to bring my mom. And I just remember this one moment where James Taylor is literally getting my mom a cup of tea, just being a gentleman. He's like, can I get you guys some tea? And of course, he like brings over a cup. And I thought, this is the wildest thing, that we're in the White House right now, but that James Taylor is like getting my mom tea. So there's been like just some kind of, there's certainly been some moments along the way that just feel almost like, I really can't believe that happened still, but I've been really fortunate to have some fun stuff like that happen along the way.
That's fantastic. Well, one thing about the style of music you play, playing bluegrass, it is a very collaborative form of music. It's, get a bunch of musicians together, somebody calls out a song, you play around. Your husband's a musician, so you've got that. Are you finding ways to kind of scratch that itch as a bluegrass musician?
Yeah, I mean, it's great because, I was texting with one of my friends today, a fellow musician, who was saying, yeah, but I really, I've been given a lot of lessons, and he was saying that, that's been great and everything. He said, but I really miss playing with other people. And I am lucky to be married to this amazing musician, so we can play together, and we have that. But, it's funny. I think there's nothing quite like being able to actually go out and sit in a circle with your friends or stand on a stage with a band and play. And I think we're all really missing that right now, So I think when we can all finally get back together and really feel like it's safe to go out there and tour, it's going to be the most glorious feeling, not just hopefully for the fans, but for all of us getting to make the music too, So there's plenty of ways that we can all connect. I was thinking yesterday when our power went out, we took a little walk around our neighborhood, and I just said, it's kind of funny. Can you imagine like what this time of going through a pandemic would have felt like before we had the ability to do stuff like this? Just at least this is a way we can connect. We can hopefully, spread some love and give some music out into the world, even in these crazy times. But like pre-social media and, being able to connect with our phones with FaceTime. I mean, I've not seen my mom through this whole thing. And so just being able to, hop on FaceTime and see her for a while that way. It's a really beautiful thing that we have that available. I can't really imagine going through all of this and how it would make us feel if we weren't able to connect this way. So I think we're lucky in that regard, but there's nothing quite like the real human to human interaction. I think pretty much everybody's missing that in some way.
Absolutely. I can't wait for live music to come back. But like you said, this has kept me sane, knowing that at 5 o'clock every day, I get to have a conversation with somebody and listen to live music. So thank you so much for doing this. And what are you going to play next for us?
Well, I thought I would play a song that I wrote with one of my best friends here in Nashville. We kind of got together and sort of wrote this song unexpectedly. We weren't even really planning on writing. I had just gone over. We had dinner one night near her home, and we're hanging out and decided to write a song. But we were roommates for about 7 years here in Nashville before we both got married. And so we both got married around the same time, but she's a great singer-songwriter as well. And in that time, we maybe wrote together once or something in all those years, which is crazy because we were just always busy and kind of on different schedules. And so now we've started to try to write together a little bit more 7 years later. So this is called Poison. Poison, you are poison to me. For the true apothecary stole my sanctuary, kissed my creation with your lips of poison. Your drugs are quick, but my mind is quicker, so I won't let it die, but it might get sicker by your poison. Ooh, ooh, ooh. You did not write this story, Sam, so you cannot steal the honey from my breath. Oh, with your poison, you are poison to me. Oh, true apothecary, stole my sanctuary, kissed my creation with your lips of poison. Your drugs are quick, but my mind is quicker, so I won't let it die, but it might get sicker by your poison. I thought your elixir was my friend, but it was just a toxic mixture in the end. Oh, with your poison, you are poison to me. Oh, true apothecary, stole my sanctuary, kissed my creation with your lips of drugs are quick, but my mind is quicker, so I won't let it die, but it might get sicker by your poison. Oh, true apothecary, stole my sanctuary, kissed my creation with your lips of poison.
Woo!
Thank you.
So how fun was it to write a kiss-off song with your best friend? You know, you both are married and, you know, but
Well, it's funny, we laughed a lot in writing the song because, you know, I just was talking about how, like, so much of the music, this was around the time I was working on the 25 Trips record, and a lot of the music sort of felt heavy to me, you know, in this kind of serious way. And so I said, man, it would just be fun to write something that's just, it's fun, you know, it's like it can be sort of whatever we want it to be. And I had recently thought about the Britney Spears song Toxic and how much I kind of loved that song. And so I was laughing, kind of telling her, like, you know, well, like lyrically it could still be whatever, but just as long as it has this kind of fun, you know, easy to grab a hold of kind of thing. And so she was like, yeah, well, let's just write something. How about Poison? What about Poison? And we're like, okay, Poison, let's roll with that, you know. So it was really fun writing that with her. And at first we thought, I don't know, you know, how we feel about this song. It sort of just started rolling off our tongue, and then next thing you know, we're texting a couple days later like, I can't get this song out of my head, and we're like, we actually really like this song. So.
that's great. Well, hearing the story of writing the song before hearing the song as you're playing, I'm just imagining you two like getting excited about a new verse or a new line, and you know, just having so much fun with it.
She was a literature major in college, and so we sort of kind of harkened back to the idea of like William Shakespeare and using that as some of the inspiration for the song too. So
that's great. Well, one thing I like to ask everybody who comes on the show is what is the piece of art that is getting you through this, or what is distracting you, is feeding your soul, whatever, what TV show, what book, What album, what do you find yourself drawn to right now and spending your time on?
Well, certainly music, has always been a way to get through things for me, not just like playing and writing my own music, but listening to other music. I recently made this Spotify playlist that if folks want to check it out, maybe they'll enjoy it too. It's called Songs for Sanity.
I
And
think we all need that right now.
yeah, so it's my Songs for Sanity playlist, and I've been trying to. It's only a couple weeks old at this point, but the goal is to just add new stuff all the time. So I'm sort of interchanging some of the things I'm listening to within a given week. So it's sort of a weekly playlist, if you will. So always music, but I've never been a real big TV person just because a lot of times I don't feel like I have time. But I realized like sometime last year even I was just so busy in the middle of trying to finish my record and touring like crazy, and I found that when I would download some show from Netflix when I was on a flight or something and just watch it, there was like, I think sometimes I'm a very work driven kind of person. I love working on music. I love, sort of the process of feeling like I'm always doing something. So sometimes there's a sense of guilt. I don't know if you ever experienced that. Like if you really take time to chill too long, it's like I start to feel guilty about it or something. And I finally realized, there's a need for that kind of escapism sometimes, and just something that can kind of clear your mind of all the, the stress or the things that can be brought on by your job or things that you're really, trying to do creatively. And so, yeah, I found like, watching certain shows. My husband and I are, we've been watching Curb Your Enthusiasm. We've been watching Three's Company, throwing it back.
All right, old school.
Shows. I always love things like Chef's Table or, different things like that. Great British Baking Show. I got really into that for a while. Frankie and Grace, all kinds of things. Oh, and so that's all stuff I've kind of been watching. That's pretty much done. But the thing that I'm currently in the middle of is The Crown. Kind of
Crown.
getting
I
do
watched
that.
the last episode last night, so
Yeah. Okay. I'm
yeah.
getting close. So yeah, I think just anything like that kind of can be helpful. We're cooking a lot more, obviously than we've ever been able to do. We've got our little garden kind of now going in the back. So there's a lot of things that are kind of, I think, helping us keep our sanity, so to speak.
That's great. So the mint straight from your garden. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So where can people find more of this, more of live stream? Are you doing this regularly? Just go to your website and see what's there.
Yeah, folks can always go to my website. Of course, there's links to all my socials on there. My social media is probably the best place right now to keep up with stuff, as it's sort of always kind of, things popping up from week to week, but yeah, I've been doing a lot of different kind of live streams and things like this. Of course, if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, that's probably the best place to be able to keep up. I try my best to keep everybody up to date. So
Fantastic. Well, when you can tour again and we can do this in person, we'd love to have you in the Atlanta studio next time you're coming through town.
That'd be awesome.
All right. Well, thanks so much for coming and doing this. Thanks to everybody who's been watching, everybody who donated to Sweet Relief. We really appreciate it. And we'll be doing this 5 o'clock every day, 5 o'clock Eastern every day this week. So thank you, Sierra.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and thanks for all you're doing to bring some great music and entertainment to the people.
All right. Well, stay safe.
Okay, thanks. You too. See ya.
Bye.